Ahead on our news tonight from the House of Assembly, good news for public servants as details are being worked on for a much-needed contributory pension plan. And also from the House of Assembly, the Minister of Foreign Affairs says at least half a dozen additional consulates to be opened across the globe. And it's regatta time again down in Long Island. Our Candino Knowles is on the scene. This is our news. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. State Public Service Minister Pia Glover-Roll providing details on the Public Service Contributory Pension Plan announced by the Prime Minister. Glover-Roll acknowledged that the current plan is unsustainable and noted the plan will allow for public servants to scale up or down depending on how much they choose to contribute.
What I can tell you is that the intent is to have better benefits and a portable plan that can be carried with the beneficiary even if they leave the public service. It's their plan that they've been contributing to. So they shouldn't lose it if they no longer work for the government. This is a stark contrast to the current system and is needed to ensure that we are properly supporting retirees.
During her contribution to the 2022-2023 budget debate, Glover-Roll also pledging that pay increases outlined in the recent budget is only the first step. She said the government is doing what it can at the moment and admitted that the fiscal reality could never address decades of salary stagnation, rather.
The pay increases we're introducing within the budget are only a first step, a very important step in the right direction. As the economy recovers and the government's fiscal health improves, we can expect more steps to be made in the direction of ensuring that all Bahamians are paid a fair wage. We can't do it all within one budget cycle, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is planning on opening at least half a dozen additional consulates across the world, according to Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell. Mitchell did not give a cost as he spoke in Parliament.
There is a plan to open an office in Toronto for Bahamians there. Los Angeles, these are consulates, looking at Dubai, Jamaica, Trinidad, and Panama.
Mitchell says there is also a need for a new building for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
In the case of the Foreign Ministry, we hope that we'll have a new building in the cards. Hope with the Parliament that there's a new building in the cards. So these are just some examples of what could happen and what should happen in my view.
Meantime, former State Finance Minister, Kwesi Thompson, slamming the Davis administration's budget, saying it misses the mark and falls woefully short. During his contribution to the budget debate, Thompson said the government's budget ignores targets set out in the fiscal strategy report. He also slammed the Davis administration's decision to increase the budget for travel wages and salary while slashing funding for social assistance.
What sense does it make to increase travel and decrease the amount allocated for social assistance? You must explain why you have decided to cut the allocated amount. Why also cut the amount allocated for uniform allowance by $1 million?
The government budgeted an additional $4.1 million in travel expenses for the upcoming fiscal year. The budget for the Department of Social Services is being slashed from $81.4 million to $48.7 million, with the majority of the cuts in social assistance. The government intends to borrow $690 million to offset budget shortfalls for the remainder of the fiscal year and the next. The government is forecasting a deficit of $564 million. Regarding the government's revenue projections, Thompson calls it pure fantasy.
Show us the data that forms the basis for your revenue projections. Tell us how you will collect the $1.4 billion in VAT, which is $500 million more than without putting in place significant new tax measures.
Minimum wage should increase to more than the projected $250 slated for the public sector next month. That's according to Foreign Affairs and Public Service Minister Fred Mitchell, who says he believes it should be higher given the record high cost of living. Jasmine Brown has more in this report.
The Foreign Affairs and Public Service Minister giving his take on the topic as he led off day 2 of the 2022-2023 budget debate in Parliament. He says increasing minimum wage would be good for the pockets of Bahamians.
We are moving, says the Prime Minister in his statement yesterday and before, toward a minimum wage of $250 a week. This is going to be a sea change for our country. They've been trying to restrain me from saying I think it ought to be higher, but not being very successful, but it should.
Mitchell adds it would also be good for the economy.
Believe me, when people at the minimum wage level get funding, the economy thrives because they spend and support the economy.
Minimum wage is set to increase to $250 in the public sector in July, according to the Prime Minister. Minister for Economic Affairs Michael Halkitis also said last week government hopes to increase minimum wage in the private sector soon after. Currently, the private sector minimum wage is $210 a week, while the public sector minimum wage is $225.
We believe that this is the right thing to do, and I want to applaud the government for it.
The minimum wage increase comes as the country faces a sharp increase in the cost of living, a concern for residents who are frustrated over increased expenses and stagnant salaries. The PM told Parliament on Wednesday the minimum wage hike is just one of the measures his administration is introducing to help residents cope with inflation. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. As severe weather warnings loom, our Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center with a first look at weather. Greg?
Thanks, Megan, and welcome everybody for our first look at weather on this cloudy Thursday evening. Cloudy conditions outside our studios, temperatures in the low 80s, 82 degrees, with some southeasterly wind flow at 6 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature factoring the relative humidity, a very humid 89 degrees. Satellite view, a lot of moisture coming out of the Caribbean across our area, all associated with that disturbance in the southwest Caribbean Sea. That is getting its act together, and thunderstorms are consolidating with that. It's still gradually trying to develop and will continue to move towards the east-northeast, more northeasterly across our area. Should get in our area by the weekend, but cloudiness and showers and thunderstorms will continue to affect the islands tonight to tomorrow, and then we will be going downhill for the weekend. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, Grand Bahama unions get ready for Labor Day, and the government is set to address the vexing forestry issues. That's coming up when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Samantha.
As talk continues over illegal deforestation and production of charcoal, the Department of Forestry is saying government is coming together to address the issue. However, the department heads say the issue significantly worsened during the pandemic. Bethany McDermott reports.
The Department of Forestry is reporting a significant uptick in deforestation from the end of 2021 to now, according to Director Daniel Hennick.
We're waiting on those final numbers, but it is over. I could safely say it is over 200 acres that were cleared within this time frame.
This, she said, is due to the ministry halting regular patrols once the country was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Recall in COVID, we had lockdowns where we could not go out, and we were not determined an essential agency, so therefore we had to stay home or not be on the roads.
Just yesterday, Bahamas National Trust Executive Director Eric Carey said the issue at hand is multifaceted. Hannock echoed those sentiments, explaining that multiple government agencies, including the Forestry Unit, Department of Environmental Planning and Protection, Physical Planning, and the Department of Lands and Surveys are involved. The clearing down of the forest, she said, accelerated charcoal production, which is illegal.
I think the general public figured that this was a normal activity, something that was permissible and had no issue. But now that we've done investigations and noticing that it's not just staying in the country, but it's being exported, that's a whole other level that needs to be addressed.
She said they've received reports of more than 10 to 15 active kilns at a time.
Normally, in our patrols, we would see about maybe 4 to 8 active kilns.
Hannock says the area off Carmichael Road has always been a water reserve and was previously managed by the Water and Sewage Corporation as well fields. While that's no longer the case, she stressed the need to protect the resource, which is being damaged by this activity.
All private wells, even the government pumps, everything is connected and ties back to these watersheds or water tables that are in this area. So, and the concepts of having a reserve, having conserving areas, so it balances the development around it.
In terms of finding a solution, she says they've been advised to file a report with the police, Attorney General's office, and the Department of Public Prosecutions in hopes of getting a resolution. As for resuming regular patrols, Hannock says they've been advised against it.
It is not deemed safe because our officers are not armed. We are not enforcement officers. Enforcement officers of our country are the police and the Defense Force.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
The 61st celebration of the Randall Fox Labor Day will take place on Friday, and union counterparts in the Northern Bahamas refuse to be left out. Union affiliates on Grand Bahama revealing plans for a Labor Day parade on Friday morning. Vice President of the Trade Union Congress in Grand Bahama, Kirkland Russell.
The workers in this country, and in any country, if you're going to build the economy, workers are just as important, as equally as important as the employer, because workers are the producers who actually build the country. Whether you are a housewife, whether you are an employee in the industrial sector, an employee in the tourism sector, taxi drivers, public service, servant drivers, beach vendors, store workers, all workers across the length and breadth of Grand Bahama. We want to encourage you to come out and join us.
Co-chairs of the Labor Day Committee, Sandra Major and Rudolph Stubbs, explained the importance of Sir Randall's legacy to every worker in the country.
We understand how important workers are to this country. We can do nothing without workers. Unions are built on the back of workers. So the purpose for the parade is to celebrate you, the worker.
The values and the core regulations that Sir Randall Fox would have laid down and the benefits that he would have achieved in order for you to be able to benefit as a worker and a laborer here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is tremendous. And you ought to appreciate and you ought to celebrate anytime when you hear the name Sir Randall Fox.
Grand Bahamas Parade will begin at 8 a.m. in 8 Mile Rock at Seagrape Corner and end at St. Stephen's Park.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual fund in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, it's regatta time. Our Candino Knowles is standing by in Long Island with the details.
Plus, coming up in Sports Night, Jazz Chisholm making his offensive presence felt in a Marlins win. We'll also tell you how things are going down in Long Island as the Long Island Regatta underway and rugby returns to Grand Bahama. That's all coming up in sports.
Those details when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamika.
This is our news. Welcome back. Thousands expected to descend on Long Island over the next few days as the 53rd annual Long Island Regatta is underway. Islanders looking forward to these significant economic returns. It's the second largest regatta and it follows the recent return of the sporting and cultural event, which kicked off in Exuma in April. Candino Knowles is in Salt Pond tonight and files this report following a long day out on the seas.
If you're not here at the regatta site yet, and if you're not on Long Island yet, you're missing a great thing.
Long Islanders Association committee member and former MP Larry Cartwright excited for the return of the island's annual regatta.
It is no surprise that everybody was looking forward to this regatta. And it means that cars will be rented, rooms will be rented, private homes will be booked out, and everybody comes to Long Island and they're here again this year for a jolly good time.
Low winds causing a late start for races, including the Alive Cup, but once winds grew stronger, sloops were in line waiting for the sound of the starting gun. Tarvin Roll out of Black Point Exuma among the winning team of sailors on Sloop Slaughter in the second Alive Cup C-Class race.
When you're out on that sloop and you're trying to get across the buoy, what is that like?
Man, it's getting very exciting. It started to feel butterflies in your stomach. The competition is so tight, you know, and you got a lot of good boats today, especially Long Island boys. So you know, you got to put your best foot forward.
The return of the regatta comes following a 2-year hiatus prompted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The island also previously hard hit by Hurricane Joaquin in 2015. But islanders and vendors, some of whom have returned home for the event, agreeing with Cartwright, saying regatta's return will bring a much-needed economic boost for this community of resilient people. Everyone we spoke to just glad to be home.
I'm from here, I live in Nassau. It was a pleasure getting back here. During the pandemic, we were not able to do anything, so I'm sure a lot of persons here, as well as the visitors, are glad to be back home.
Yes, it was a missing not being able to come during the pandemic.
Yeah, regatta is a must, especially for Long Islanders. Yeah, regatta, that's like the heart of this island, really. Yeah, that's what regatta means to me. It's family time, it's culture, it's fun, it's the sailing. Obviously, my family is deep in the sailing. We're a sailing family. So it's big. It's bigger than Christmas for us. Bigger than Christmas.
And this man coming all the way from Abaco to celebrate the return.
Regatta is a part of Heritage Month. That's a part of our heritage, but we need to keep going.
Dominic Petty is Alive's general manager of Family Islands, and he says the company's sponsorship helps to do just that.
To be a part of the community such as this regatta in Long Island is something that's very, very special for us because we know the impact that it has. Events like this actually brings people together. That's definitely something that Alive always want to be a part of. We want to be able to connect persons not just electronically, not just by solutions, but also through families and communities and things of that event.
And intermittent rain has not stopped the show here at the 53rd annual Long Island Regatta. Races expected to continue into Saturday, and so will the festivities. An official opening ceremony is expected. We'll be here for all of that. Reporting from Salt Pond, Long Island, I'm Candino Knowles for our news.
Thanks, Candino. Try not to have too much fun without us. Well, Jazz Chisholm goes deep in a Marlins win. Rugby returns to Grand Bahama, and it's regatta time in Long Island. Our Marcellus Hall has all of those details.
Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Tell you what, Jazz Chisholm has been struggling a bit since his return from injury last night. And they took on the Colorado Rockies. Jazz breaking out offensively in a big way. Let's take a look. So Jazz Chisholm and his Miami Marlins back in action yesterday, doubleheader with the Colorado Rockies. First game, Jazz back in the lineup, starting at second base, and he would have himself a ball game. Going 2 for 5 in this one. Those 2 hits were monumental as he strikes for a 3-run blast in the 4th. Miami cruising to the victory here, 14-1. Ends up being the final score. Jazz did not suit up for the second game. Didn't play. They had him on the bench. Didn't want him to play back-to-back coming off that injury. Miami ends up losing in 10 innings. 13-12 ends up being the final score, but the 3-run blast by Jazz helping the Marlins blow past Colorado in this one. 14-1 ends up being the final score there. On to some other news, this time coming out of Grand Bahama, where this past weekend Freeport Rugby took on Nassau Select, and this one actually went pretty good. Bahamas Nassau Select team, this one a pretty competitive matchup in terms of that one. Played tennis side, as they call it, just not enough players to make 15, but they wanted to get the action in, and as a result, the score a little bit high, but it was actually 18-5 tries to Freeport, and all in all, a good selective matchup. Afterwards, Adam Waterhouse, the chairman of Bahamas Rugby, speaking on the return of rugby to the Bahamas in a post-COVID world.
Trying to get as many people out as we possibly can, bring some awareness back to rugby, make sure that people know that rugby is going to start happening again. We've seen the ease of the COVID restrictions, so it's great to see rugby back on board, and we've already had one, and this is our second one.
Meanwhile, Long Island, a pretty busy place over the next few days as the Long Island Regatta making its return to Salt Pond. Class A, B, and C class boats will be over the waters in the next few days. We'll give you more details as the races continue. And there it is, a check on sports for you here on this Thursday. Enjoy your holiday weekend, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Megan.
Thanks, Marcellus. When our news returns, let's go straight to the Weather Center where Greg Thompson is standing by. Stay tuned.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Salute.
Welcome back. Overcast outside, our Greg Thompson has the details in the extended weather report.
Thanks again, Megan, and welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. Tropics getting very busy right now. Yesterday was the 1st of June, and that officially started the official 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. Couple of systems out there, the National Hurricane Center, watching and monitoring at this time a low-pressure system that was attached to a surface trough just to the northeast of the Bahamas, pulling away from us, not really showing any signs of any development at this time. Very low chances for development. But all eyes are now in the Western Caribbean that this system, what was once Agatha, moved out of the Eastern Pacific across Mexico and just off the Yucatan Peninsula. You notice a little bit of a circulation just off the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula. A lot of convection starting to blow up in this system, and will continue to track towards the east-northeast. Should cross Cuba by tonight and into tomorrow, and then move into the Bahamas by the weekend. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look at our 7-day forecast over the next couple of days. We're expecting a very wet pattern into the weekend. Very windy, tropical storm conditions expected. Of course, as the system continues to pull away from us by next Monday, we should see things starting to improve. But this is expected to be a very wet weekend. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Megan.
Thank you so much for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Megan Shepard. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Until then, have a safe and wonderful evening.